Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win.
Welcome into Room 442. I'm Sarah Pararia, joined alongside Mikey Singh. And Mikey, the San Siro is blue after the Derby della Madonnina. Of course, it's only the first leg, but Inter beating AC Milan 2-0 with an absolute screamer from Edin Dzeko, and of course, a second goal followed by Mkhitaryan. I think a lot of us had some concerns going into this game with no Rafael Leao. Obviously, a huge loss for the Rossoneri, but Inter dominated in the first 10 minutes of this game, and that's all they needed to do, and that was it.
Yeah, I think when you look at these two teams on paper, I think even Milan fans would tell you this. On paper, Inter have a better squad. And you take away Rafael Leao out of that mix, and it's a super, super thin group. So to see Inter come out of the gates like that, yeah, sure, like surprising because it was 11 minutes into the game and you're throwing it back to Edin Dzeko finding his form in one of his old school vintage Dzeko goals. The finish was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then also another throwback in Henrik Mkhitaryan getting on the score sheet. It was like really
What
nostalgic
year is
watching this game. And then, you know what? Surprisingly, because both of these sides, especially Inter, they play super defensive football. I was surprised to see just how open this game was and how many chances there were for both teams. Like, if they were a little bit more clinical, I think, in front of goal, this game could have been like a 4-3 fixture. But instead, it's Inter. I think they took their foot off the gas pedal a little bit after they went up 2-0, and they did, sit back a little bit too much, which is honestly just their just what they typically do anyways. So a 2-0 result, it's still in the balance. It still is, especially if you get Leao back.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this could have been, though, easily like 4-0 for Inter in the first 20 after Çalhanoğlu and Dzeko had another off the post there. It was... Milan got very lucky, I think, for a moment there. But Stefano Pioli, coach of AC Milan, this is what he had to say after the match, not sweating it too much.
Parlando di Champions, in Champions la squadra non ha fatto alti e bassi, ha fatto un percorso eccezionale. Vogliamo provare a superare anche questo ultimo step prima di conquistare una finale di Champions, cosa che a tutti noi credo non sia mai successa. Quindi le motivazioni, la volontà, la determinazione, l'ambizione è al massimo, questo assolutamente.
So, he basically is saying this happens in the Champions League. It's normal. We can come back. Obviously putting on a brave face there. It's not the end of the world, 2-0, to be honest. It's really not. For some reason, I'm not looking at this second leg like it's done and it's finished. And especially, like you mentioned, if they have Rafael Leao back, I think they have a very good chance at giving Inter a run for their money.
Yeah, there's this saying in Italian, and apologies if I butcher the way I pronounce it, but
we go.
It's Pazza Inter. And what that essentially refers to is that Inter's notorious for blowing leads, essentially, and just giving up their position. So they're in the position right now where they should see this tie out completely, and they should win pretty easily in the second leg, especially considering, I think, the next leg, it's going to be predominantly Inter fans as well at the San Siro.
Yeah.
So they should see this out. But like I said, they have a history of not seeing these types of ties out. And especially in a derby against a Milan team who's obviously going to come out and throw everything at it. Who knows what could happen.
This is just important for Inter and their history, knowing that Milan has gotten the better of them the last two times they met in the Champions League, 2005, 2003. And I think for them, it's not, of course, you're going to a Champions League final, but there's bragging rights on the line, and especially with your city rivals. Yeah. And what's interesting here is that they obviously have the next leg next week, but these two are competing against one another for UCL contention in the Serie A as well. So you have Inter in fourth with 63 points, and then you have AC Milan in fifth, 61 points. They're right behind each other. Atalanta's 58, and then we have Lazio just above them at 64. Like, the race is on here, and we built up a board to show you who they're playing in their next couple matches, if we could bring that up. So AC Milan has Spezia, of course, the second leg against Inter, Sampdoria, Juve, and Verona. Not a bad schedule at all, besides Juve, of course. But Inter over here, Sassuolo, Milan, they have to play Napoli away at the Diego Armando, Fiorentina in the Coppa Italia final, Atalanta, and then Torino. Inter's schedule is way more difficult, so I'm kind of wondering if that will catch up to them. What do you think?
Yeah, because if you win the Champions League, theoretically, if they can go on and win it, you automatically get a berth next season.
Yeah.
So there is that to consider as well. Obviously, looking at that schedule, you'd like to think that AC Milan have the edge heading into this one, especially because they're also slightly ahead in the table. Mm-hmm. Or sorry,
Inter is slightly ahead, 2 points,
slightly
2 points,
ahead in the table. But still, looking at that schedule, I mean,
it's not great.
yeah, it's
and like a final too. It's not going to be easy.
Atalanta's a really good squad. They're right behind them. Napoli obviously away. We'll see what Napoli is the rest of the season, just because they've
done and finished it. But still, against big rivals like Inter and at the Diego Armando, they're going to want to just hammer anyone. They're going to celebrate until the end of the season. So
no,
it's
exciting that there's something actually to watch for in the Serie A table, because Napoli's had this locked up for the longest time.
Yeah,
I have a take. Mm-hmm. You're probably not gonna like it. This matchup in a semifinal of a Champions League, mid. As much as I respect the history of AC Milan and Inter Milan and the rivalry that exists, and I do appreciate that it is still very much a fiery rivalry, it's more of a quarterfinal matchup I'd like to see. I think for a semifinal, it's mid.
I think the thing is, though, is that none of us thought that either of these teams were going to make it to this point. Yeah. The thing is, I know what you're saying. I think the teams, the romance behind these teams, the history. When if you noticed yesterday at the game, they had Shevchenko was there, Maldini, Samuel Eto'o, Clarence Seedorf, and I was like, we are not worthy. We are so not worthy. But when you look at those teams and what they were and those players, and then you look at the teams that they have now, they're not bad teams and they're not bad players, but we are talking some of the best footballing squads we've seen in the history of football. Like
that's what I'm saying.
So I know what you mean. It's hard, but I think it's just because we're comparing it to that.
Maybe, but it's also like they're 4th and 5th in the table right now.
Yeah.
They've both gone through, I appreciate that Milan won the Scudetto last season, but they've both gone through a little bit of turbulence, I think, in the last decade or so. And you look at the other semifinal in the Champions League, it's Real Madrid, Manchester City.
Well,
that's like the final right now. Right? So that's all I'm saying. But I can appreciate the romance behind it, and I enjoy watching the spectacle.
It's not the same.
It would be a great quarterfinal.
I think it's the quality of football, though, because, you had a team that won. Like, you had a 2-0 win for Inter here, and then you had a City and Real Madrid draw 1-1. But that football... in
10 times out of 10, I'm watching that 1-1 draw
for
over
sure,
this 2-0
because of the football that was being played. That it was top class. It was. If Zlatan Ibrahimovic was playing for AC Milan, would this be a different story?
TV. Yeah, what, 41-year-old Zlatan Ibrahimovic?
Yeah. Do you know what, though, is that I was thinking about this yesterday. Of course, I think most people have thought Real Madrid and Man City, whoever wins that is going to win the Champions League, right? Because by the looks of the team, those are the better squads. They play better football, but this is tournament style football.
Yeah, I'm shaking my head.
This is like Inter Milan might get through and beat City in a really defensive 1-0 penalties. But that's like, it's one of those ones. It was like when Chelsea won the 2021 Champions League, and we were all like scratching our heads, like, were they the best? Are we sure?
Yeah, no, 100%. And you hit the nail on the head. It's tournament football. It's 190-minute match. And if you want to talk about teams that are built for tournament football, it's AC Milan and Inter Milan right now with the style of play that they play. So, yeah, anything can happen. Either one of these teams could go on to win it, which, cool story. Bit of a letdown.
We'll see, though. I'm hoping that AC Milan come back. Of course, Rafael Leao, will be playing, but also I think that was one of their worst defensive games ever. Like, Theo Hernandez was awful, and he's one of their best players, and he's been great this season. Tonali was maybe their best player, but besides them, who's the Tomori? Tomori was
Calgary born.
Yeah, well, Tomori. He was awful. Like, he was shocking. He was really bad. So they struggled a lot in the back. I think also Kiar didn't really have a good game. They just didn't look like they were connecting. Once that first goal went in, they were shocked. They were flustered. They weren't covering their man. They weren't on the goal side. Like, there was just a lot going on. But I'm hoping that bring Leao in, bring Ibra in too. I don't care if he's injured. He'll play. But like a way more defensive team, because I would love to see this game just like elevate itself a bit, because it could. It has the potential. It has the history.
Yeah.
So let's see what they got.
That's why I'm looking forward to the second leg. 'Cause I
It's
actually
all on the
think, given the
table.
history, given what this means to both of these sides,
Yeah.
not just Champions League, just like I said, the rivalry between the two sides, and who knows what could happen. It could set up to be one of those insane days.
Well, let's hope for that. It's the Derby della Madonnina. The second leg will be May 16th, Champions League semi-final.
Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win.